an unusual punishment that they may receive in prison, right? Now, Jonathan makes the point that, well, maybe that we're giving them the easy way out. Yeah, you could argue that either way. We're shooting, hanging, electrocuting, injecting, whatever, right? Maggie, how do you feel about that? Should criminals be given the option to request the death penalty?
I feel like that would be abused. I feel like people, like...
Oh, I'm interested in that. How would that be abused?
Well, I feel like if we're going to have it at all in the prison, it's like, okay, you can request it. You'd be like, oh yeah, he really wanted this, so we're going to kill him now. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that till now, so I'm kind of thinking it through.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to say no, but I just feel like it would sort of lead to the same thing we have now, where it's just like, they're pressuring these people to say, okay, I'm okay with having a death penalty administered, when they might not actually.
How do we feel about, and I know this is way off topic, but follow me for just a second, physician-assisted suicide. Somebody's got a terminal illness, I just want to end it, I don't want to suffer through this illness, maybe I can have my physician administer some drugs to me and I can kill myself. Is that not similar to this, right?
Yeah.
I can't live with whatever this situation, it's become untenable, I just want to die, right? If they're out in society, if they're not in the prison system, certainly they could commit suicide in some way, right? So we're not for giving them the option in prison, if they opt yes, to be executed.
When you put physician assistant to the side and right next to it, I don't think that it's right.
Okay.
To be able to give them the option, because like you said, they're trying to opt out of life because it's just so horrible to them. So rethinking it, I don't think that it's right for us to be able to give them the option.
Jonathan, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like physician assisted suicide is fine. I mean, they've done nothing wrong.
Okay. So we'd be okay with physician-assisted suicide in a medical case, but not giving them the option to be executed by the state.
Yeah.
I'm curious with just someone here. I like this. Oh, our Christian duty, right? So you guys don't like the death penalty. In Kentucky, we have the death penalty. What if you're asked to serve on a jury where you could impose the death penalty?
Yeah, well, I looked into that a little bit. You can be, they might not have you on the jury if you say that you're not willing to administer the death penalty. And so that normally takes care of it, but if it came to it, I would rather give someone the death penalty than release them, but I wouldn't want to go for the death penalty if I was on the jury.
What I think, it was reading yesterday as I was preparing for this, Acts 25, Paul, right, has been accused of blasphemy, and he says, if I've committed this crime, then I can die, but I haven't committed the crime. So Paul doesn't seem to take objection to the fact that the state can execute him, right? As a Christian, he's saying, hey, these are the rules that I agreed to abide by, and so, if I committed this crime, you can kill me. So as a Christian, living in a society where we have the death penalty, does that define differently our sense of duty to comply with the rules that we have? I mean, Paul was willing to die, even though, that seems like a stretch. Blasphemy is punishable by death, but that was the law at the time. And Paul was saying, hey, if that's the case, then I deserve to die. But I didn't do it. I mean, Courtney, thoughts there?
So I was talking to my dad about this yesterday because he is a lawyer. So I asked him about what jury duty looks like, and he said that whenever you go on a jury, you have to swear that you're going to follow the law unless there is a jury nullification, I believe, and then that's where your personal beliefs can come through if the law is incorrect. And he told me that the best way to go about a jury duty where you have to administer the death penalty is follow the law until the law is wrong. And I believe that that is how I would go about that. Yes, it's against my morals per se about the death penalty, but I believe that the law goes before anything else.
Yeah, I feel like you should be unbiased if you're on jury duty.
So don't let your personal conviction about the death penalty or personal feelings about the death penalty weigh in. You should comply with the law and apply it accordingly.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, yeah, I guess I agree. I think that, what we're talking about is sort of like changing the law. So that's sort of what our perspective is for the rest of it. But like Courtney said, the following the law until the law is wrong. That's what I agree.
And when you say, this is my last question, I'll shut up for a minute. When you say changing the law, what would be your argument to change the law in Kentucky? To do away with the death penalty, what would be your argument? Would it be economic? Would it be religious? What would be your argument?
I guess it sort of ends up being moral, because I would just say that it's unnecessary. And if it's unnecessary and it is cruel, then I don't think we need to do it in a developed, civilized country.
So only third world countries?
So let's talk about other countries.
Curious.
Wait, that was serious?
Please, I'm leaning into you, go ahead.
Okay, so other countries, what are their stances? We've gotten a lot of non-black and white questions. What are other countries doing?
Well, the only, well, I have this one. But basically we executed, I know we executed the sixth largest amount of people last year, and the countries that beat us were, China, Iran, Pakistan, and the only civilized, countries that have it and used it less than us would be Japan and Taiwan. But most countries don't have it. Most modern countries don't have it.
And other countries feel very strongly about the fact that we do still have it. Like I've seen lots of, I have no specific things to that, but I remember one time there were people in France, I believe, who were like really freaked out by the fact that we still have the death penalty.
We've offended the French.
Apparently.
Yeah, I found the list. We were in 2016. We were exceeded by China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Pakistan, and then Taiwan and Japan being the ones that were 17.
Do you think I lied about not asking more questions. Does the death penalty deter crime? Any stats on that?
Good question.
Yes. Basically, there obviously have been tons of studies that have tried to prove that, and they never have been able to.
Is that an argument to make them public again?
There you go.
And if you had a public hanging, I imagine that would deter deter crime a little bit, if people had to watch that.
French.
Right.
I was about to say.
Yeah.
Guillotine.
Do you have the statistics?
Yeah, so it says a report by the National Research Council titled Deterrence in the Death Penalty stated the studies claiming that the death penalty had a deterrent effect on murder rates are fundamentally flawed and should not be used when making policy decisions. So I believe that if it was more public, yes, people would be freaked out, but people that are going to murder someone, I believe, would have a different stance on that, because they obviously have a darkness inside of them that regular people would not have.
Yeah, well, it's weird trying to get inside the mind of someone who's going to do something really terrible, but I would think that if you were going, that sort of person, that you're not murdering someone thinking, okay, well, when I get caught, I'm just going to go to life in prison, so it's fine, I'm going to kill this person. Like, I mean,
It's fine.
yeah, it's going to work, yeah. I don't think there's much of a difference between life in prison and the death penalty in that moment when you're doing something really terrible, so that's why I can't really imagine it would have a deterrent effect, and when I saw no study and proved it, that sort of made sense.
Let me ask you guys another question. It seems like we've seen a lot, especially in the last days. In fact, this morning I saw a news report about an execution, I think being stayed in, I believe, Texas, we talked about earlier. It seems like there's a lot of celebrity behind this these days. We see some of the same names popping up, people, pop culture celebrities, I hate the word celebrity, but whatever, that have all of a sudden chimed in on this. How do we feel about celebrities getting involved in death penalty cases?
So we're talking about Kim Kardashian, right?
I want to hear about it. Yes, I love talking about Kim Kardashian.
That was that's what I want to talk about. She did.
You're welcome.
Yeah, she did come visit Rodney Reed last
Okay.
week, the Texas prisoner.
Okay.
I don't know. She's gonna become a lawyer apparently.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I told my mom that that devalued her law degree.
Yeah.
But
Courtney, I'd love to know what your dad thinks of that.
oh yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess if someone has a lot of sort of celebrity power, that it makes sense that they would want to use that for good.
So you're happy that celebrities are getting involved? Because you've all said for different reasons you're against the death penalty. So do you, in real quick answer, because I know we're running out of time and I got a lot of really hard questions to ask you still. So do we feel like celebrities getting involved in death penalty cases is a good thing or a bad thing, Maggie?
It's a good thing.
Okay, Jonathan?
I'm going with bad thing.
I like you, Jonathan.
I
Courtney?
don't like it at all.
Okay, you don't like it at all. Why don't you like it, Courtney?
Because I believe that, I'm not gonna say that their opinion is invalid, but it's also, they're not informed on the subject
That's
enough.
a great point. Dig into that a little bit for me.
So, like Kim Kardashian, who's
Okay.
a prisoner, she does not have a law degree, she doesn't have anything except fame. And people believe her because she's famous. And I don't believe she's using her power in a different way than it should be used. And she should just stick to what she's known to do, which is on her reality TV show, doing whatever she.
Being a Kardashian?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All the other good things.
Right.
So she shouldn't automatically be limited credibility because of her fame or
Yeah.
celebrity in some other venue
Right.
to give her an unfair weight on her say in the death penalty case. Is that correct? Jonathan, how would you feel if something egregious had happened to a family member of yours, and the person who perpetrated that crime was convicted, sentenced to the death penalty, was going to be executed, we'll say, I don't know, last night, and all of a sudden Kim Kardashian's calling up people and saying, you know what, they're a really great person, I don't believe that they should be killed. Do you think that should have a sway on whether the person who did something egregious to a family member of yours?
No, definitely not. I would not be happy. Yeah, I feel like what she said, they sway the public view a lot. People tend to believe celebrities just because they're celebrities.
Maggie?
Yeah, well, I think Kim Kardashian's main thing is like innocence, like with Rodney Reed, like she thinks he's innocent versus just being against the death penalty. And with that other woman that she thinks that was basically a child when she committed her crime, and Kim Kardashian got her out of
I
prison.
think that was a
But-
drug crime, yeah.
Yeah, so that's different, I think, but I'm against the death penalty, so I wouldn't want. In general, I don't think we should have it. So if Kim Kardashian wants to be on my side, then okay.
So you're on Kim Kardashian's side as long as you're getting your way?
I mean, yeah, Kim Kardashian. Yeah,
I just wanted to hear you say it, Maggie. That was it. Oh, wow.
So I'm horrified by the answer to this question, I think, already. Who's the youngest person to ever be executed or sit on death row?
yeah, well, I don't know exactly the youngest person, but I know that I was looking at sort of Supreme Court rulings, and it was pretty recently that it became juvenile, so like under 18, they had 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, and then you have, obviously there were death penalties that were like lynchings, that were black children who were executed, but who were very young. I don't know specific like the youngest, but children. They've executed children.
I've got one last question, and you can just ponder it if we don't have time. So the Fifth Amendment seems to allow for executions, right? So the founders allowed for it in the Constitution. Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. There were executions going on at the time the Constitution was signed. Do we believe that our understanding of the Constitution has evolved over time, or should it go based on what the founders said? Because obviously they didn't think executions were cruel and unusual because they allowed for it.
That's deep.
You can think about that one if you don't want to answer it.
I can sort of answer. There was, not a great prison system when the Constitution was written, and so if they didn't kill these people, there was a good chance they were going to get out and do some more bad things. So I know that I had some quotes somewhere from some of the founding fathers talking about talking about just not wanting to administer the death penalty, but doing it because we need to do it, which I don't think applies to today.
So it says President James Madison, the author of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, opposed the death penalty and stated, I should not regret a fair and full trial of the entire abolition of the capital punishment despite any state willing to make it. Benjamin Franklin, who similar was a fan of the death penalty, said, it is better 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer. George Washington even pleaded with Congress to limit capital crimes on multiple occasions, even though Washington begrudgingly signed death warrants in his day. He said, we should not introduce capital executions to the
Well
Great
done.
job.